Hi, everybody. It's day 22 of the Crystal Advent Calendar. And as you can see, I have another shiny new face with me in it. Today it's Deborah, and she's from Voices of the,
Voice of the Akashic Records.
yeah, of the Akashic Records. And she, if you didn't watch it last summer, she organized the fundraising event that Psychics for Democracy. And when she called me and said, I think I want to do this, and I'd go, think again, but she didn't. So she and did a marvelous job. I mean, that what she did was not easy. So we're going to go over and look at what stone we've collected for the day. And we're over, and it's day 22. Let's see if I can get it open. And day 22 is they're slick guys. I'm sorry, I'm not any better at this than that. Okay, got it. It's Green Aventurine. And if you've ever watched me work with crystal grids or anything, I use a lot of Green Aventurine because it's a marvelous stone. But first, we're going to thank the Earth Mother. We are all thankful to our Mother, the Earth, as she gives us all that we need for life. She supports our feet as we walk upon her. It gives us joy that she continues to care for us as she has from the very beginning. To our Mother, we send greetings and thank you for the little crumbs you've left of the earth for us to learn from. And Green Aventurine, a quick fix on it. It releases old patterns and disappointments to allow for new growth to take place. It brings optimism and zest to life. It allows us all to move forward. Um, it's Green Aventurine is a silicon dioxide mineral. That's why it's so shiny and pretty, like most of them are. And it's a member of the quartz family. And it was found by chance. So this guy named it by chance. But the green provides strength, confidence, courage, happiness. It renews one optimism for life and pushes us to take more chances and to risk going out into the world. It's here to help our emotional body calm, and it also helps us through times when we feel uncomfortable. Um, and that's a real quick fix. And now we're going to come over and talk to Deborah about Green Aventurine. And when I read what the stone was for you today, I thought, well, that's perfect because this lady sows seeds of optimism and helps people root out what it doesn't work anymore and start new growth from what can go forward. So now it's Deborah.
Yeah, well, I love the stone. My first reaction was that it just really felt like heart chakra to me. And
Mm-hmm.
that's what my work has been. I didn't used to like people very much. I was very much a hermit.
Mm-hmm.
Angels got a hold of me and sent me on this mission of being the voice of the Akashic Records. And it was like my heart chakra exploded,
Mm-hmm.
big, massive green. And now I love everybody, which is really startling to me, but kind of getting used to it because it's been that way for a while. So it felt perfect for that reason.
Mm-hmm.
But also, as I look at it, it's got a very ethereal feel to it.
Yes, it
Get
does.
that?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yep. It's a lovely kind of green. It's not pine tree green. It's a very natural green. It's a very good color for us to hold in.
Solid and
Yeah, it's
not
steady.
flashy, but reliable, steady.
Right. When you hold it, you can feel it. You can feel the solidity in your hand. When you hold red aventurine, you can almost feel it pulse. That's kind of the difference between the two energies within the elements that they have.
It feels
And
very encouraging.
yeah, well, all that makes a green aventurine and a red aventurine different is the other colors that come in besides the silicate. And those are the things that's hematite is what makes and that's iron, just like iron
Oh,
in your blood.
that
So,
is so cool because Archangel Raziel told me that I needed to have hematite. So
yeah,
that's an interesting connection.
yeah. And you can have it and mix it in with other crystals. It's really It's fascinating. Have you ever used crystals in your life? I mean, other than just kind of being around them?
Not really purposefully. Once in a while, I've got a small collection. I get them out and
Mm-hmm.
doing something special, I'll set them out just because.
Mm-hmm. That's as good a way to use them as any.
Well, Raziel told me to look for hematite, so I went to this gem show. I
Mm-hmm.
couldn't find any hematite except for this massive piece, which I wasn't going to bring home. But I found this beautiful green labradorite,
That's
and
got hematite in it. That's
it does.
mm-hmm.
Oh, awesome. I didn't know that, but I was drawn to this stone, so I brought this home.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's the one you needed then.
Okay.
I've had people, I've had a friend who knew she wanted to get a new pendulum, and I was in Denver visiting her, and we were in a store full of all kinds of stuff. And she was walking along, and I mean, there's literally a wall of pendulums hung up like necklaces, like jewelry. And she's walking by this one, and it was swinging out towards her. And she's used to odd things. She lived in a haunted house for a while, so she's like, I wonder if that means anything. And all of a sudden, this woman started talking behind her, and she turned around and she said, Virginia sent me to tell you that you need to start doing what you need to be doing instead of what you're wasting your time on. And my friend said, who did you say sent you? And she said, well, I was just working a psychic fair in the back of this shop. And the voice said, this is Virginia. And tell her she's not listening no matter what messengers I send to her. So she needs to be doing what she knows she should be doing. And my friend kind of went, okay, Virginia's her mother. And normally Virginia speaks through me because she won't, I don't know what her deal is. I mean, they loved each other, they got along, but she apparently, she's, she's stubborn. She doesn't want to do things when you tell her to do them. So anyway, I, when I get feathers in my house, that's her mother sending her messages. And I'll call her up. I said, there's a feather sitting in the middle of my hermetically sealed building. I lived in a building that you couldn't open the windows. And there's no way for a feather to get on the third floor. And our critters didn't go outside. So I said, what are you not listening to that Virginia's trying to tell you? Because it's in the middle of my living room. I sent her a picture in the middle of the car. So, there's all kinds of things like that. It's not just stones, there's all kinds of natural uh, elements that can move us. And that's happening more and more to people.
Yeah,
Um,
as more people are getting sensitized and waking up, yeah, it's a whole new
mhm.
world. Thank goodness.
I don't think they're getting sensitized first. I think right now they're just waking them up and saying, guess what? You're here. You know?
Yeah, well, I'm working with the ones who are already sensitized and they're just going,
Okay. Well, people don't come and talk to a woman who has a dragon named Cecil unless they've been around the block a couple times, let me tell you. But all my elementals, all of them relate to the stones and the crystals, and they all have very different meanings. And in this time of change, a lot of it's been being very gentle with yourself and understanding that these changes are here. They're accessible to all of us, they're meaningful to all of us. And I found some stones in doing these 24 crystals because my daughter just bought me this kit blind, and and like I said, I didn't know what you were going to have until the day before. And I've got 2 more days to go, and I've got them tomorrow and Saturday. And then I'm going to do a summary for those who've asked for it. I did write down, and I've created a summary of each day, kind of the high points of that crystal, who was in it, and what synchronicities or what part of their life that crystal touched at that time.
that
So
is beautiful. And when does that come out?
we're gonna tape it probably Sunday or Monday so that we have it out on the 24th. And then it'll be a PDF, and I'm hoping I can get a hold of my web person so they can stick it in resources on my website. If they can't, I'm going to have to go through the deal of you writing me and then I send you the PDF. But and it's kind of a fun read. I mean, very interesting,
Yeah.
really interesting stories.
Yeah, thank you for doing that. That's exciting.
Well, you're going to be in there, you know, and um, do you have anything else you want to say about? You got green, which is kind of Christmas too.
Yeah, yeah, all around. Well, and
Hmm.
as I told you in the beginning, green is for hope. So it just
Hmm.
always felt really good to me.
Yeah, and I think we're living in a time where hope is in huge supply and everybody's hoping, but I think it's kind of in short supply and who's really visualizing it's here.
Yeah, but I channel Archangel Metatron, and lately, like the past maybe almost 6 months, he's
Hmm.
been signing off with there is great hope for the future.
Hmm. Well, I've always felt there was, and I feel like some of what we think we're seeing is an illusion. And I've been going through this, and God, God bless the person who created the antiques road trip, because they've got like 14 years of it, and I'm like on year 10 because I've been avoiding. And it's just fun. I love it. People go around England, they pick up antiques, they talk about how those work, and then they go and they visit weird historical sites. I mean, things you wouldn't like. There was a guy who he started out as a shipwright as a small child. He was 13. Anyway, when he was 15, he fell on the boat and broke his back. So he eventually became a cobbler because he could sit and do that work and he could earn a living. But what he found appalling was that the children, there was no education for the children. So he taught himself to read. He found out from someone how to sort of start it, and he taught himself by understanding language how to read pages. He opened his cobbler shop every day to any child who wanted to cram in there and learn how to read. And they think he was responsible for training over 500 children to read. He was eventually, uh, the government was so embarrassed by the fact that this guy was doing more in their cobbler shop than they were doing in their thing, that they took over, and he has a statue, and there's a memorial where his shop used to be. His shop got kind of blown up in the Second World War. So they built a complete reconstruction because they had really good drawings. People would go and do ink drawings of him showing teaching these kids. He'd have 40 kids in one room. That was tinier than most of our kitchens, and they all were learning to read.
What an amazing legacy.
I know. And I mean, and the thing is, you'd never hear about things like that. But then you realize, I mean, on this show, they have two or three things to show about, oh, we're in this town and this is what this village is known for. And they're all known for something. So,
Well, I
and
hope somebody's gathering all those little tidbits into a book because that would be fascinating.
I would think it would be fascinating. I'm just gathering it into it distracts Nancy and keeps her going from day to day. So,
Yeah.
but and it's a YouTube thing, and it's lots of fun, and I enjoy it. I used to live in the world of vintage. I used to read at a vintage store, so I know how their minds work, kind of, and people that are really into that stuff. I always found it, some parts I found it hard to go around the vintage, and I have to go back in because someone has come visiting. The owner was at the cash register, and the security camera caught a woman standing next to her who wasn't there. So I have to go find out.
Is
But
that near you?
oh yeah, it's here in Dallas. There, um, I found in working, I never wanted to go ghost hunting or dealing with any of that stuff. I thought, no, that's not me. But I learned how to send them to a better place or calm them down, and for the most part, they're totally harmless. There was one older woman, was a society matron in Dallas, and when she died, her family took the woman who owns the shop up to the attic and said, here's mom's stuff. And her mother had been at the height of fashion from the 40s through the 70s. And, we had Neiman's and Sakowitz, and every upscale, expensive dress store in the world was here in Dallas because there was money here to buy it. And so my friend got to pick through them and offered them a fair price. And they knew that she would treat their mother's clothing with respect. Well, a week, I know nothing about what's going on the racks or whether they're bringing in somebody's old Tupperware or whatever. And I was sitting there and I could smell this perfume, and it was a floral, but it was like one I remembered from when I was a kid, which was in the 50s. And I was like, is that coming in through the vents? And I'd talk to nobody else could smell it. They'd come by my chair and they couldn't smell it. So finally I decided somebody's here. And so my daughter can see them when they're in between places. And I said, "Hun, could you come down on Sunday? I think I want you to introduce you to somebody." And she found her and she said it was a lovely woman in this far corner and she could see her and she knew she wasn't from our generation. So she went up and talked to her and she was just there watching her stuff to make sure it was properly taken care of. And when they sold the last dress, she left. So, you know,
It's amazing she would have a connection to things.
not really. A lot of people have connect. I mean,
Yeah.
I think now the younger people might not. They have a lot of electronic energy and that kind of energy. But no, there's a lot of connectivity to things. I could never do um, what the dealers did because they had to go into house sales and rummage things and find stuff and bring it in. And they would occasionally, one guy brought something in and Rob said, "I think this stuff is weird." And he had been with some dealers who brought it in, and they were African masks, and they thought they were knockoff masks that were sold for, to tourists. They were the real deals. They were flying off the pole they had them on, trying to get people. And one flew off, and Rob came and got me, and he said, "Nancy, this come over here." And I knew it was something bad because Rob doesn't get upset about much. And he showed me, he said, "Look at this mask." And it was lying on the floor. And I said, "It's going to get damaged if it lies on the floor." And he said, "It was up there and it was like an aisle away up. And you could see where it had been hanging." And I said, "What's going on? Did it get knocked off?" And he said, "No, it flew at this lady." And I turned around and this woman was still standing there like, "Oh, I'm just here in the store." And I said, "Oh, I'm sorry. We don't intend to have things flying you all." And she said, "Well, what are you going to do?" So I said, "I'm going to blow some incense around it, put a ring of salt around the pole, and tell everything it stays there till the people who really own it can come and get it out of here because it does not belong in a public space. It's not controlled." And so she came and talked to me later and she said that was the second time in her life that a native mask had come off the wall and landed at her feet. And she said, "What do you think I ought to do?" And I said, "You need to go find a shaman and find out how you're related to all these things." Because it ends up, we found out Rob can research anything, and he researched it, and he said the mask that flew off the wall was a mask they used in ceremonies where they killed their enemies. And I said, "Well, we definitely don't want that in the store." So I called the owner and said, "These got to go." She called the vendors. They came and got them that afternoon. And then they told me that they'd got them at a garage sale and thought they were just tourist masks. And
Mhm.
they kind of, but they said, "But it was really weird. We moved them in our garage, and that's where our laundry room was, and both the washer and the dryer broke that day." I'm like, "And you didn't take the hint."
Nope.
Mm-mm. But we're not talking about that. We're talking about Green Aventurine, who brings new things and clears your life and helps you. And this would be a good one to hold if you're letting stuff go. This would be a good thing to hold on to while you're imagining the things go, because it has the energy to help you start new beginnings.
Perfect for the end of the year, isn't it?
Yeah, it's always perfect. I mean, they just always work out. And I want to thank you for showing up. And I'm sorry I bored people with another ghost story, but
Well,
um,
I enjoyed it. I hope the audience does.
no, they do. They like them. They said, "Tell us more," and I keep forgetting them because they just comes with the territory. Um, but thank you. And what do you do at Voices? What at your channel?
Voice of the Akashic Records. Well, I channel Metatron a lot. I have a number of books out there that I've written about the Akashic Records. I
Mhm.
do soul introductions where I go into somebody's record and I find out what their gifts and their specialty and their soul tribe, which is their planet of origination. I get all that information out of their records and share it with them so that they can see themselves as if through the eyes of Creator, who their soul
Okay.
is.
So if they can't read their astrologic chart to know what the mission was, maybe you can give them a leg up, huh?
Oh, yeah, it's all in their soul purpose, everything. And it's just the most exciting, fulfilling thing to do when you introduce somebody to their soul. And I get
Oh
to
yeah,
do that.
yeah. Well, thank you so much for coming, and thank you so much for all the stuff you do on your channel. And we will see you guys tomorrow on the 23rd.
Thanks for
Bye-bye.
inviting me. Bye.